It's fine. Our policy directors have. We'll give you free tuition.
No, maybe like
You see, like my little care. Okay.
Hi. Welcome. As a part of our commitment to being accessible and transparent as an administration, we are establishing a new initiative known as Fireside Chats, where we'll give you the highlights of each Senate cycle in Student Senate and report on other events on campus. This idea comes from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in which he gave a series of radio addresses from 1939 to 1944 in order to explain his stance on a number of issues related to his administration and defend his policies. This gave assurance to the American people at a time that was unprecedented, and we believe that this is such a similar time in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Prior to the official start of cycle 1, our administration experienced its first crisis. The fee package that had been voted on and passed by the Senate in the spring was rejected by the Kansas Board of Regents, or K-Board. We had to cut it down to a flat fee amount from the previous year. After a 5-hour meeting and much deliberation, Student Senate was able to overcome its first hurdle of this administration and pass a new fee package that K-Board eventually approved in service students.
During cycle 1, we had our first full Senate and committee meetings of the semester. Introductory officer reports were given, and both the consent and regular agenda items were passed. An additional piece of legislation was generated as well in Committee of the Whole, condemning the sexual violence that allegedly occurred at a chapter of UNL Greek Life and passed.
In cycle 2, both the regular and consent agenda items passed except for Bill 2022-032, which was a resolution articulating formal disagreement with the views expressed by KU Student Body President Nadia McAdoo. This bill was written in response to a retweet made by Nadia McAdoo that expressed Happy Friday, Death to America. The bill critiqued the sentiments and accused Student Body President McAdoo of disrespecting the armed forces and those who have served it.
President McAdoo clarified that the tweet meant a termination to the America that was built on the oppression of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. As the bill was written, McAdoo received overwhelming amounts of racism and prejudice online that included explicit racial slurs, death threats, and calls for McAdoo to kill herself. This bill overwhelmingly failed after much deliberation and hours of debate.
In cycle 3, full Senate, we heard from the director of SAPEC, Jen Brockman, who gave an overview of what the SAPEC office does for students on campus. Unfortunately, on the day of that full Senate, we were forced to adjourn as we had not met quorum. Cycle 3 also saw Bill 2022-303, which was a resolution regarding the alleged sexual assault of Phi Kappa Psi. This bill was written in response to protests over sexual violence at the Phi Kappa Psi fraternity and campus in general. The bill was passed and successfully called for a number of action items from the university to deliver justice and work to genuinely bring an end to sexual violence on our campus and provide more resources to the survivors on our campus as well.
In cycle 4, only the student body president gave an officer report, as this was the first time officer reports were given in StuDex rather than in full Senate. This avoided nearly an hour of additional time during those sessions and increased attendance in Student Senate. An important bill this cycle was a bill to amend SSRR to allow scholarships. That was Bill 2022-14. It was passed to codify the existing usage of the Educational Opportunity Fund and continue the valuable work it accomplishes.
In cycle 5, both the consent and regular agenda were passed apart from Bill 2022-024, as there was no presenter present during that session. The bill was tabled. We then heard from representatives from the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies and the danger they faced and potential budget cuts from KU.
During our next cycle, in cycle 6, Bill 2022-34 was passed in response to these concerns. It was a resolution in support of the University of Kansas Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies, or CLACS. And this bill was written in response to them losing vital institutional resources and support that they are entitled to in order to continue their mission and give support to students in years to come. The bill was passed.
In cycle 7, we passed and signed the new guidelines for Student Senate that is now referred to as the Student Senate Constitution. This was a months-long effort that began in the summer to rewrite our rules and regulations in order to make the document more accessible and better suited to the needs of the student body as a whole. This was the last cycle that we passed in 2021.
Cycle 8 was the first cycle of 2022. We held council meetings and the Students' Assembly meeting virtually this session due to the rise of the Omicron variant and cases happening on the KU campus. During Students' Assembly, both bills on the regular agenda were passed, and we were able to elect new representatives to University Senate and Senates.
Last semester also held some dark moments for our campus. In September, students protested in front of the Phi Kappa Psi House in response to sexual violence on our campus. This led to the development of a Title IX forum put together by student and administration for the spring semester, which should be coming up in a couple weeks. The artwork Native Host by Hawk EI, the Edgar Heap birds that is in the front of the Spencer Museum of Art was vandalized and later stolen. This led to many discussions surrounding the treatment of Native American Indigenous students, culture, and land on our campus and abroad. Fortunately, the perpetrators eventually were arrested and are still being considered for charges within the city.
We're very proud to say that this semester was a success in many ways. Our Internal Affairs Director, Max Lilich, established the iClicker program that loaned out previous iClickers that belonged to Student Senate, but had been made obsolete thanks to our new voting system. iClickers are mandatory for some classes here at KU, and sometimes they can be costly. These iClickers were loaned out to interested students as tabling events at the beginning of the semester.
Our policy director, Ari Maria, in equal collaboration with the student body president, Naya McAdoo, wrote out 2 new initiatives, such as the Share the Warmth Social, where we collected clothes to redistribute at the Kansas Union with cookies and hot cocoa, as well as the self-care night, where we provided food, games, movies, and other relaxing activities for students to unwind before finals week. Policy Director Shabria also established and began work on the Fireside Chat initiative last semester with the help from the student body president and vice president Naya Denise McAdoo and Ethan Rower.
We also welcomed 2 new staff members to our executive cabinet last semester. Mary Morrison was acclimated as our new associate treasurer, and Faith Lopez was acclimated as our new government relations director.
Most of all, we are proud to share that last semester we allocated over $10,000 to student organizations across campus to support them in the valuable work they do in our campus community as a whole.
That's all that happened last semester and last cycle, so we hope to see you again soon.
Rock Chalk Jayhawks!
Great.
I loved it.
I love when you spoke about yourself in third person.
I mean,
Yeah, continue to wait for more of these fireside chats as we continue to keep up this tradition throughout the remainder of our administration.
see you, Jayhawks.
You know what?